Well, hello and welcome back to another week on my allotment. I should start by declaring the intro you just watched is not today, it was last weekend. Last weekend I filmed as I normally do on a Sunday, a day on the plot, and then when I started to create the video back at home the computer crashed. Took it to a repair shop and they declared that I needed a new computer. In fairness, it was over a decade old, so you know it was probably due. Anyway, I've got this new all singing, all dancing. You click a button and something happens immediately. It's quite new to me, but of course, and luckily he was able to cross over all our data, so we haven't lost any video clips, any photographs, any documents. My modest business accounts, they're all safe. That's good news. I have had to buy a new movie maker program, and I'm learning that, but if this is online now then I've managed it. So it was a bit of a hiccup, but all's well that ends well, and I've got a day on the plot and it's peeing down. The forecast for the next 2 weeks is more of the same, so we've had a brief week, maybe 10 days of dry, not warm but dry, sunny weather, which has done the plot a world of good, and now it's back to situation normal. Anyway, can't help that. So without further ado, I said without further ado, didn't I? I have saved the clips of our weekend away in York. It was our 40th wedding anniversary and Cheryl decided we were going to York. I have to say what a pleasant surprise York was. It was clean, it was litter free. The shops were all thriving. The historic part of the city is fascinating. We had a lovely hotel right in the city centre. It was an absolutely glorious weekend. If you've got to go to a city, and I'm not a fan of any of them, then York is the place to go. We went to Betty's, which is the most overpriced sandwiches I've ever eaten in my life, but Cheryl enjoyed it and that was the main thing. But it was a beautiful city. The gardens are immaculate. Everything was lovely. It's like Britain used to be before we lost our pride. Anyway, let's have a look at a few clips of that. Straight after that, there is again another clip from last weekend of the greenhouse, and then I'll see you back here. Welcome to York and the Principal Hotel on a gloriously sunny day at last. It's actually our anniversary today and I'm marking time while my lovely wife gets dressed. It's been the same for the last 40 years. The Nutcracker Christmas shop, and guess who's gone in it? Happiness is. Right, well, it's 28 degrees here in the greenhouse. All the tomatoes, in fact all the seedlings that were in the house are now out and in the greenhouse, which Cheryl's very pleased about. And you can see the mistake I made sowing the tomatoes in February. They're now 2 feet long. They can't go outside and we've still got cold temperatures, so I've made a fundamental error there, but you live and learn. So yeah, lots more tomatoes. Spinach Apollo, I'm trying that. Sweet peppers here, and then various different, they're all blight resistant tomatoes I'm growing this year. A second repeat sowing of Bolt Hardy beetroot, and then Cosmos, some lettuces I haven't got in a tub yet, my celery, just a little bit this year, that's going to be grown in the greenhouse. Some zinnias that haven't germinated yet. Lots of flowers at the moment. A second or third repeat sowing of brassicas. More lettuce, some cosmos. None of the pumpkins have germinated yet. Not concerned yet, but we need pumpkins. And then zinnias, wildflower mix. These are the mashed potato squash, asters, more brassicas, and then my courgettes. So every single space is used and then some. And so far it's going well because we're having some good weather at last. I have 2 further things to say. The first is I would like to take this opportunity, bearing in mind my wife has never ever, in all the years I've been doing this, watched one of these videos. I'd just like to take the opportunity to say how proud I am that we managed to reach our 40th wedding anniversary. You know, life isn't easy, is it? It should be, but it isn't. You know, I was a soldier for 30 years. I was a boy soldier when she met me, and I went into the regular army and I served for 30 years, and she followed me to every posting. You know, in Germany for 6 years I was very rarely at home, and she had 3 children in a foreign country. Not only did she cope, but she thrived. And let's face it, she stuck with me for 40 years. Now, I know what you're thinking. Martin, you're a reasonable, good-looking, lovely, interesting chap. Who wouldn't spend 40 years with you? Anyone who knows me knows what a cantankerous old objectionable sod I am. And life in the military wasn't easy for any wife. So yeah, I'd just like to say a public thank you to Cheryl for sticking with me. One of the beauties of my military career was she enjoyed it so much I never had to worry about whether my wife was happy, and it enabled me to thrive as a soldier and as a leader. A lot of men I saw had to give up or struggled because their wife and their family weren't happy with the life, and it hindered their ability to excel. I never had that problem, so, you know, joking apart, I was very lucky and still am. Best day's work I ever did. I'm not telling her that, and she'll never watch this, so enough said. And the second thing, I'd like to declare I filled my first human manure bucket. That took a lot of work, a lot of dedication, but I've managed it. I've now tucked it away out around the corner where no one can find it and get inquisitive and be emotionally scarred. So yeah, I filled the first one. There's another one in the composting toilet ready to go, and I'll spare you any more details. And what I'll do now, I mean, it's still raining, although, you know, it's not heavy, is I think we'll have a wander round in between brews, and I'll just show you what's been going on, because of course I've waited all winter showing you very little on the plot, and then in the 2 or 3 weeks when everything takes off, I haven't been able to post. So we'll have a look around the plot now and see what's changed, what's going on, and what crops are in and what crops aren't. Well, we'll start round the back, and hopefully you can see now the distinctive real parsnip leaves. So all of these 4 barrels have parsnips in. The last one I sowed isn't showing anything yet, but the other three have plentiful supplies of parsnips. I have another chitting container in the airing cupboard to fill in the gaps as they develop, but the parsnips are looking good. One of the barrels down the bottom is also parsnips, so I have 5 barrels of parsnips this year. What else is happening at the back? Right, well, I don't worry about the rain now because of this wonderful ditch. And here I have some sycamore seedlings. Up at the Bigswear estate, 4,000 acres, you can imagine they have a lot of seedlings growing, and wherever we end up moving, we're going to want firewood. So it doesn't look like much firewood at the moment, but it's a view to the future. Maybe not even my future, but my daughter and son-in-law's future, that they will need to be able to coppice and harvest their own firewood. So those half a dozen sycamores are a look towards that. I mean, it would be lovely if we had a little piece of woodland, and some of the properties we're looking at do, but not all of them. Anyway, the raspberries are coming on, and so are the blackberries. Well, the marsh marigolds in the pond are an absolute picture. They don't flower for long, but when they do, they're lovely to see, and it definitely makes a feature of the pond. And despite my misgivings, I do have tadpoles in the pond, so some of the frog spawn clearly survived, although I couldn't see it, and they're quite large, biggest I've ever seen in the pond. Maybe we'll get some frogs this year. And although the pot doesn't look pretty on a miserable day like this, it is becoming productive. So let's have a closer look. My broad beans, Super Aqua Dolce Claudia, that were planted in October on the plot, have been absolutely decimated by slugs and snails. Never managed to catch one on them, but they've almost been ruined. So I have a second sowing. Now these will be affected by black fly, but I'm going to do the garlic spray again, where you put a garlic clove in a pan of water, boil it, let it cool down, put it in a spraying bottle, and then spray the crop with a garlic mixture, and I think that's quite effective. But this is a second sowing of broad bean to fill in the gaps. Here, under this Enviromesh, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 cauliflower Romanesco. That green, lime green, very attractive plant. I like the look of it. We do like our cauliflowers frozen over the winter, so I've dedicated a whole bed to just 9 of them. And a close-up of my favourite crop at the moment. The asparagus is coming on a treat, and I'll be taking a very modest little picking today, just a taster with our Sunday dinner. But I'm thrilled, they've all come back strong, and we're going to enjoy it while it lasts. These are my Brussels sprout plants for the year, a clubroot resistant variety called Crispus. There are 8 mature plants in there, tied in to keep the leaves off the ground, but they're still getting attacked by the slugs, and they've each got a metal rod as a support, and I'm hoping with all that support and the Enviromesh that they'll be safe in there. Let's hope. Moving on down the plot, lovely to see this. I bought 2 pear trees from B&M, 12 quid for the pair, and they've both leafed up, they both look great. And this one here has got some blossom on it, although I don't think I'll be letting that branch on there. It just isn't strong enough to support a fully sized pear, so I think that the fruit will be taken off this year. Strawberries have had a rough old time of it over the winter with flooding and so on, and I have lost a few plants, but they're holding their own now, and there's some flowers developing, so we might get a small crop. These are all 1-year-old plants. They were all taken from runners last year, so we shouldn't really expect much of a crop this season. The Brassica Enviromesh, or the bed, so that is all 4. That is cauliflowers, broccoli, red and green cabbage. They're doing okay. I picked off all the brown yellowing leaves a couple of weeks back, and there's more developed. I was going to say I don't think they're growing, but I'm sure they are. Oh, that one's been pretty much annihilated by slugs. That's the problem. This ground is so heavy and so wet. Talking of which, I've put my French beans on top of those water butts in an effort to keep them away from the slugs. What else have I got to show you? Step over tree, it's looking good. It's had some blossom on it. Maybe we'll get some fruit off of that. These two pea frames are fully planted up and are looking okay. Oh, there's a pheasant on site. They're the broad beans that have been decimated. Not much I can do about it, is there, really, to be honest. Even if I put netting over them, the slugs are inside. Yeah, can't help it. There are some small beans on some of them, but most of them, when you look closely, aren't going to produce a crop. And here's the third, the new addition to my plot. Piece of Harris fencing. I've put some in, and over there again trying to keep them away from the mice and the slugs, etc. 3 small gutters with peas ready to go in the next week or two. And down here, again thinking to our new property later in the year, one of my customers has a little piece of woodland with bluebells and wild garlic, and he said, help yourself, I've got so many of them, I won't miss any. So I've done that, and I'm very grateful to him. So I've potted up some wild garlic and some bluebells, and as and when we move later in the year, hopefully, they'll be coming with us. They are quite invasive plants, and I am aware of that, and we'll use them with caution, but it would be nice if we've got a bit of woodland or some trees to underplant with those. And of course wild garlic is a nice little harvest. Down this bottom end I have the pea purple magnolia. I have grown it before as part of a trial for Kitchen Garden magazine in which I featured, and we enjoyed them. They're a mange too, pea, lovely raw on salads. The fig is doing extremely well. I've got small figs on it and it's leafing up. 4 of the 7 raspberry plants I took from my mum's garden are developing. So I've got a couple of gaps, but she's got more I can have. So I will be filling those gaps soon. This rain will do the rhubarb good. And I'll probably take another picking today. Right. Potatoes. So I've got 9 Charlottes in there. They were planted on the 7th of April and there's no sign of them as yet. But I'm carrying out an experiment here. These 2 rows are a main crop called Java. Java is has taken over or has been developed from the Sapo Mira, which is the potato I've grown in the past. It's blight resistant and it's slug resistant, and it has proved a successful crop. But one thing I've never managed to do is produce large jacket potatoes, so I'm experimenting. In this row here I've planted them 2 feet apart, and in this row here they're 1 foot apart, which is what I normally do, and I'm waiting to see if growing them further apart will produce larger potatoes. Quite how a young potato underground knows how close its nearest brother is, I don't know, but we shall see. I'm hoping for a larger crop. Moving round, not a lot else happening in the ground. That's covered up ready for pumpkins, and this is covered up ready for butternuts, but over there it's all go. So these tubs are second early potatoes, Kestrel and Charlotte, and then the one tub without enviromesh on is parsnips, and then all the rest of these tubs with all the enviromesh on are carrots, and they're all flyaway, which is a carrot fly resistant variety. But I had a piece of old Enviromesh, so I've cut it up and tied it on. And it occurred to me, why am I bothering with carrot fly resistant varieties when I'm covering them with Enviromesh and put them up off the ground? It does seem to be belt, braces and more. Anyway, the main thing is I want a crop of clean, organic, tasty carrots. And if that's what I have to do to get them, then I'll do it. And there are carrots showing, and this rain won't do them any harm, I guess. So yeah, it's all looking good here. Here's the second of my step over trees I created. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. Lovely amount of blossom here. None on this side. Strange. Another job I've done since I last saw you. Had some multi-sown onions, tough ball, in a cell tray. They're not particularly big yet, but I thought, you know, let's get them in. Again, this rain won't do them any harm settling them in. I planted them this week. And we'll see. Well, this rose has been out about a week. It's astonishing. April. And my climbing roses are starting to flower. It has been a very strange year. I don't think apple trees get enough credit for their blossom. This is a Granny Smith, and it is an absolute picture. Here's an aerial shot of my fig in its restrictive box, and it's looking good. Some small figs that are developing week by week, and the large distinctive leaves are starting to open up. I think I might get a crop. Just brought these out the back of the van, and again it's all part of making space in the greenhouse for the tomato plants when I plant them in their final spots. And I grow them in grow bags because the floor of the greenhouse is paving slabs, and it's always been perfectly fine. Always had a good crop of tomatoes in the greenhouse, but they need space, so this lot's come up here. And it's mostly flowers, lobelias, cosmos, and then a wildflower mix that I always start off in trays and then transplant into the ground. But they're cauliflower Clapton, and they're a mix of different brassicas that were left over. So they'll need to go in one of the cold frames, otherwise the cabbage white, which we haven't seen a great deal of yet, but we have seen, will have them, lay their eggs, and they'll be gone overnight. So I'm going to leave the flowers out, and they'll have to fight on their own, but the brassicas I need to get under cover. Well, this kiwi plant, which is meant to be self-fertile, this is its third year, I think. No fruit, never has. I think I bought a duffer, but it's not unattractive, so I'll leave it where it is and I'll keep training it in. But yeah, no, never produced any fruit, never produced any flowers. Just been looking at these broad beans that I mentioned. They're substitutes for the plants I've lost, and I noticed a few of the leaves, some of the leaves have been nipped off. So I've spent 10 minutes going through all the trays, lifting each individual pot out and inspecting it underside, and there's what I found. It just takes one snail stuck on the underside of one of these pots, and in a couple of nights he'll have the lot. So they do say that the best thing for an allotment plot is the shadow of its owner. So, you know, walking around aimlessly with a brew, just looking at things, often reaps rewards. So he's off for a trip round the golf driving range. He's the lucky one. Some of the others I found, because I wasn't on video, they didn't fare so well. So yeah, you've got to inspect these tender seedlings, because that's what the slugs and snails absolutely love. I mean, they're happy to wait till I get them in the bed and then they eat them, but if they can find them this young, buggers. Yeah, look, another one completely bitten off. Not sure that'll ever recover. Well, it's the tiniest of crops. It's my second picking. But despite that, I'm really pleased with that. That is a premium, expensive produce. And I've grown it against all the odds. It's taken 3 years. Those are the little moments of pleasure when you have an allotment. And we'll be eating those for tea tonight. Well, it's mid-afternoon and I'm just about finished. Yet again, the weather was better than forecast. So although I arrived in the rain, actually it's been a nice sunny day, mostly. Not warm, there's still a brisk wind. But anyway, a very good day. I'll take dry every time. Picked my second crop of asparagus. Although the first crop was only 2 spears, so this is my first proper crop. The rest of the day really has been about hoeing and weeding, which I haven't filmed because it's boring. But it's vital at this time of year when the weeds are starting to germinate and grow. So I feel I'm on top of it all. Cheryl often says, "Oh, you're home earlier than I thought," and I say, "Well, you know, everything's in ship-shape fashion. I'm on top of it," which is a nice position to be in. But that's because of the work I've put in through the winter months, doing the hard work. So yeah, everything's looking good. The ground is still a bit wet and it's still a bit cold to be to put in tender crops in yet, way off of that yet. But and I'm losing a few things to slugs and snails, but that's inevitable. So not sure when I'll be around again next. Don't know what we're doing at the weekends. But at the earliest opportunity, I will post another video. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you have. And all being well, I shall see you next week or maybe the week after. Who knows? Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye for now.